Hey everyone, welcome to Mind Your Health podcast with Dr. Connie. So today's Tuesday. I can't believe we barely have about 40 days or so before the New Year's. This year just flew by. And today I want to talk to you guys about something that keeps coming up for me when I think about health and wellness and all the things that we're busy doing. And at the core, I really want to get to the heart of what really allows us to heal and pass through a lot of the things. And in my personal life lately, there's been a lot of emotional turmoil that I would routinely in the past dismiss as me being dramatic. But I'm learning to lean into them and really understanding sort of where these feelings lie because the triggers are similar and the feelings that come up for me are similar. And when I do feel the feels and I get really upset and I get angry and I express these emotions, there is a physiological effect that I am acutely aware of that is impacting my health. And it does affect everything that I do in terms of how I feel determines what I'm going to do, whether it's going to be productive or not, if I'm going to be subject to my feelings or not, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly. So while many of us with good intentions adopt healthy habits though, and do all the things that help us with our health, one thing that is often overlooked is our feelings. Feelings, I learned, are vibrations in the body that can trigger a cascade of biochemical reactions in the body. And for me, somebody who's very analytical, I need to understand sort of what that means. You can't just say a statement without it being relevant to the scientific evidence of. So I'm always searching for ways to tie it to our physical body. And if you really look at the way we process our feelings and really understand the human body and how we operate, this huge operating system that's even smarter than a computer, I want you to understand that the center of all emotions is located in the limbic system. Okay, it's the cerebral formation. It's our primitive brain. And the limbic system is the part of the brain involved in our behavioral and emotional responses, especially when it comes to behaviors we need for survival, like eating, reproducing, and caring for our young, and then running for our lives, like fight or flight. And it is in the limbic system that our emotions are decoded biochemically and labeled as pleasant or unpleasant. And the receptivity of our emotions occurs largely in the hypothalamus, which is in our brain, then act on the pituitary gland, which is the ultimate conductor or the orchestrator of the hormonal system in the whole body. All this occurs without analytical thought or evaluation when we feel the primitive feeling that we get, the nervousness, the anxiety, the quick reflex to get angry. It's a primitive response that we are all subject to. And most of us don't understand how this works. And our lives are very different today from pre-COVID, in my opinion. And many of us are recovering from the various effects of COVID in our health, our relationships, our finances, and our overall well-being and the way we do things, right? And I've been in healthcare for over 25 years, and I have this unique perspective as somebody who stood on both sides of the fence as both a patient and a practitioner. And let me tell you, when subject to healthcare services as a patient, there are lots of unrecognizable feelings that come up for me as a patient. Symptoms that plague the body tends to amplify all those emotions too. And if you're a patient listening to this, I really want you to understand yourself and really embrace and have grace over yourselves. It's not your fault. We all have emotions. We have emotions like frustration, anger, pity, shame, blame, irritation, depression, anxiety. These are all feelings that can overwhelm the body, especially when you're in pain and struggling with never-ending list of symptoms that you're acutely aware of, but no doctor can name what it is. I've noticed though that due to the shortage in the support staff in the medical field, because I've been hospitalized multiple times in the past year, sensitivity and compassion no longer are at the forefront in the minds of our health workers. And they are overworked, tired, and overwhelmed, and they too are doing the best that they can. With that being said, it's imperative, though, to tune into your feelings so that you can cultivate emotional resilience to better understand just our human nature as we're going through this human experience together, right? But truth be told, we weren't taught to express our emotions. Most of us were taught to swallow, suppress, or repress how we truly feel and act proper as to not embarrass ourselves or others. In fact, when you show emotions, it's seen as weak or something that makes everyone very uncomfortable. They just want to run. But as someone who has to navigate through various ups and downs in my health, emotions are something that need to be felt, understood, assimilated, and expressed properly in order to balance the cascade of hormones and chemicals that it triggers. This is super important because when they're not properly felt and understood, they reside in our cells and can perpetuate symptoms and disease. For example, I remember a time, and this happened fairly recently, and that's what triggered many things. I remember a time when I had to get an injection for my underlying lupus flare, and the healthcare or health worker had to puncture my arm to create a port. It's a painful process, and that's very uncomfortable. Any type of puncture in the skin can be painful, and when you're already in pain, it can be amplified, as I mentioned, and you can be flooded with emotions in that moment that gets expressed into a full-blown crying spell sometimes, which is what happened with me. The response of the healthcare provider was not one of compassion, but of exasperation and frustration. I was met with that in my most painful state. She unknowingly yelled at me to stop moving, and I was overtaken with sorrow as I felt helpless and completely dependent on this stranger who needed to do her job. And I was keeping her from it, all while I forgot that, oh, wait, it's me you're trying to puncture. Have some grace and compassion, which she had none toward me. She just wanted to get the job done. My blood pressure shot up, I began to shiver, and I had absolutely no control except to feel anger towards this health worker and at the situation, really, who remained insensitive, wondering why she chose this job she hates. When I saw that, I realized this is why I do what I do. The emotional roller coaster is part of our lives, and yet we're not really taught to cultivate emotional resilience. Instead, we have a lot of strategies to avoid, curtail, or blunt the emotional surge, only to have them be left within ourselves to be triggered in our various daily life events without truly understanding where it comes from. Just as we must properly digest foods that we eat to properly nourish our bodies and heal our gut, we also must learn to feel what we feel in order for us to properly work through those emotions to build emotional resilience. And I mentioned this, and this is why I'm talking about this today, is because this time today is more than ever where you have to create self-healthcare system. And that means complete independence of healthcare workers. You work on your health every single day as to not need the services that I needed. I believe that only when you build emotional resilience, only then can you begin to properly heal yourselves physically, emotionally, mentally, and also spiritually. The longer I live and I experience the physical pain and symptoms, the more I realize that true healing is more about becoming your true self by expressing fully how you really feel in the moment, and then to be who you are in the world, not who you pretend to be or who you were conditioned to be. So rather than living in pretense of a perfect life, comparing and judging yourself and others around you, which is typically what we all do, when we can truly take a look at ourselves for who we are and going through what we're going through without judgment and honestly taking inventory of how we truly feel and then truly feeling through that moment, that's when we can really cultivate emotional resilience to have the courage and balance our biochemistry from within to heal ourselves. And living without awareness to why and what we feel lends itself to perpetuate suffering and sickness. It's when we can stop into fully owning our feelings that we can then alter and change our behavior from that authentic place, conducive to healing. So as we look toward the new year, if you feel no matter what you try, you're always missing the mark when it comes to your health, whether that's to follow through with your plan that you set for yourself, exercise regimen, diet, or you're simply experiencing a plateau in your progress, I want to invite you to consider a true transformation by taking part of what I call gut healing transformation yoga. It's an online portal where you can do yoga with me, where you can practice daily emotional resilience by physically moving your body and training your mind to really work for you. It's the true self healthcare system where I tie all the aspects of health that you need in your own daily lives to practice living this daily. Because cultivating emotional resilience is about self-awareness that requires self-study. And that's what we do in our gut healing transformation yoga program. There's no better way to cultivate self-awareness than our functional yoga medicine. This is part of our gut healing yoga that you can practice daily to get to your goals. Click the link below and learn more about how you can cultivate emotional resilience to improve your overall health, life, and relationships in the coming year. And I look forward to serving you on the inside. Thanks, you guys, and I'll see you guys all next week.